guys, what's up? And in today's video I'll be telling you how to start up the A350 from the cold and dark state all the way up to ready for takeoff. Just a quick disclaimer before we begin the video, this will not include uploading the flight plan onto the plane. That will be in a separate video. So once you're in, you see this beautiful aircraft. So then first we'll remove the engine covers, and the engine covers basically stop birds nesting and debris flying into the engines whilst the aircraft is on the ground. And also very inauspicious, remove the pitot covers, and then the pitot covers stop dust getting into the pitot, and then the pitot essentially tells the aircraft how fast it's moving. So then enter the aircraft with Shift C, and then you should see a cockpit that resembles this. Before we do anything, make sure your engine start selector is set to normal. This is off. I know it says it's on, but it is off because otherwise it would be like that. Check that for both engines. Make sure thrust levers are on idle, and then make sure your wipers are off. Because surprisingly in the UK it's actually a good day. So then go to your overhead panel, turn on battery 1, battery emergency 1, battery 2, battery emergency 2, battery 2. And basically what the batteries do is they provide power to only some parts of the plane, as you can see. They're not providing power to the EFB or that lower radio panel. Also, just make sure your flaps and speed brakes are both in the minimum position. So these will self-test themselves. So the FMS page is not available because you don't have any more power. So, but you also see you can't see your pitch, speed, or altitude, or vertical speed, or heading. That's because if we go up here, we have the IRS. So turn on IRS 1 first, then IRS 2, then IRS 3. And what the IRS stands for, it stands for Inertial Reference System. And essentially what it does is it tells the plane where it is. But as you can see, we still only have power to some parts of the plane. So go up here and turn on External Power 2, then External Power 1. External power provides electricity to the rest of the plane, such as this radio panel down here, the other FMS, and the EFB. So then, what the external power is a cable. I'm just trying to get a good view here. External power is this cable that provides power to the plane for APU startup. So now you can see we have everything. So that's good so far. But we can't fly with this cable always, because otherwise that would kill people. So you also want to turn on your crew supply, which provides oxygen to the rest of the plane back there. And then you want to turn on your fuel pumps, which pump fuel to the rest of the plane. But as I was saying before, you have external power 1 and external power 2, which is a cable coming out of the plane. But you obviously can't have that cable constantly going. So this is why we have the APU. The APU is that little hole at the back of the plane, which basically provides electricity to the plane before engine start. So turn on the master switch, wait a couple seconds, turn on start, and then it should say on. Then if you see here, the number is slowly climbing, so we have to wait until that number reaches 100. And that shows green avail there. This takes, I think, about 100 seconds. there's 1 second per number. And as you can see, it's getting hotter and hotter. And this is so it should stabilize around this around 600 or not. Okay, yeah, I don't know what's happening. It should show, so it should show a veil on the engine cam. So right about now, and then you see a veil, and you can also see a veil there. So now, just to make sure it's providing power to the plane, make sure there's no white light here saying off, because if there is, that means the APU isn't providing power to the plane. So because we now have power to the plane out of the APU, we can turn off external 2 and external 1. And then if you go here to your EFB, you can click on ground, and then where it says GPU, you can just click on that, and it should say GPU removed. So now we're ready for pushback, but just before that, make sure seatbelt signs are set for auto, same with no smoking and no personal electronic devices, and no mobile auto, and emergency exit lights armed. But because we now have fuel pumping into the plane, we can turn that to on, and on. So once again, make sure these are in idle, these are off, and this is set for normal. And then also, it depends on the weather, but if those two should be off. So then, what you can do is you can release the parking brake, disconnect the chocks, which will basically stop us from moving. And then you can, where it says pushback, you can click that button, which will essentially stop the back. So as you can see, we're now moving backwards. For some reason, it always wants me to go to the left. So say we would be taking off of runway 09. That's 09 left. So we want to push back that way so we can taxi most efficiently that way. So then we can press that. The timing for this needs to be impeccable, otherwise you won't line up, but it's not the end of the world if you don't, because iniBuilds haven't put in a pre-plan feature. So make sure you do not start your engines here, otherwise the pushback tug will stop. I'm actually making a pushback. So then we just need to wait for the pushback to stop. That caused me some grief last time I tried. Turn the button reverse. Oh no, that is definitely not on the line. Yeah, so as you can see, it's not great, so I'm just going to stop it here. So once you're ready, you can press stop, and it should say pushback stopped. Then once you've fully stopped moving, you can once again engage the parking brake, set your thrust lever to ignition start, and then this page should come up, because you see if I do it to normal it just as door, but when I set it to ignition it shows the full cam. And then start up engine 2, because that's the side where there's least likely to be... Oh, I almost forgot. You need to turn on APU bleed to provide pressurized air to the engines to make them start. then you should see. Yeah, you see, it should come up in a box. And then that number should look like it's been highlighted. And slowly those numbers should start climbing. And then that number is the percentage shown here. Also, so you need to wait until this says 20%, 20 there, or 19.7 more accurately. So then you should hear the engine getting started up nicely. It's a really nice hum. So then it should show a veil, I think, there. Yeah, so it shows a veil there, and then you can start up engine 1. Bear in mind keeping the switch to ignition and making sure your throttle levers are on idle. And whilst this is happening, you can set your flaps to config 1. That's the default takeoff flaps. So once again, wait until that shows a veil. Make sure your parking brake's still on, otherwise you will roll forwards once your engine gets to a certain percentage. So make sure your doors are armed. This means like if you crash, then the doors get armed. Make sure none of this is showing orange, because that means it's still connected. Then that would be pretty bad. So then, once that hits 20, you can turn off your APU bleed, turn off your master switch, and then that should automatically come off. So then, you can turn off your parking brake. And as you can see, I'm already rolling forwards. So you literally just have to keep the throttle in idle. It's as easy as that. If you are a bit heavier and you're doing a longer flight, per se to, I don't know, Helsinki to Haneda, you might need to give it a bit of throttle to get it going. Just to get it going. You're very glad I didn't run you over. So yeah, you might need to give it a bit of throttle just to get it started. So I personally I have the TCA Thrustmaster Airbus quadrant and joystick, but I don't have any rudder pedals, so I'm just using the inbuilt Z-axis feature. Also, if you don't have a separate tiller control, I would suggest going to Flight Ops menu in the EFB. Go to Options, and in here where it says Rudder Control Tiller, if you don't have a separate tiller controller, you can put yes, so basically your rudder movements will match that of the tiller movements. Talk a little bit more in depth about how to configure the EFB later in another video. Also, make sure your QNH is set correctly because it's not always 1013 hectopascals. If you're in the US, you'd be doing it in, no idea what that stands for. But, okay, wow, why are we accelerating so fast? Sorry, but yeah, make sure that's set correctly. But currently in the UK, it is 1013 hectopascals. Also, please, if you have live traffic on, respect that. Like, don't run over a plane whilst you're trying to push back or something. So, anyways, once you've reached that point, where it says this, where it has this like weird taxiway, just stop there, hold down on the brakes, then check, are there no oncoming planes? Are there any taking off planes? If there aren't, you can line up and take off if you wish. If there are, just wait for them to finish doing their whatever they're doing. So usually in aircraft, we, especially in Airbus, mainly in Airbus actually, we only go to the, to flex MCT, which is this one, and that basically adjusts the engine temperature to match the outside temperature. So I would suggest using that, but if you really need to, you can use Toga, which is full power. So we're just lining up with the runway. So then you can start spooling up your engines. Then you can go to manual MCT, and then you see, so pitch your nose slightly down, and then when you're at 80 knots, bring it back to a normal position. Now we haven't inserted any takeoff speeds, so I'm just gonna say V1 140, V rotate 150, and V2 160. So then we're gonna bring back the throttle slightly. Bring back the throttle to idle. And because we have a positive rate of climb, we can put the gear up.
Too low, gear.
Okay, yes, I got that.
Too low, gear.
And then you can be on your way.
Too low, gear.
So,
Too
yeah,
low, gear.
that's my tutorial of Golden Darks ready for takeoff, I guess. So, thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video.